A powerful spiritual force pulsates all around us, offering energy and meaning to our daily lives. If we can meet the challenge of this force, our lives will expand in joy, peace, and fulfillment. The Redondo Beach Center for Spiritual Living and the ministry of Dr. Moira Fox presents Living Ideas. The power of new thought based on the dynamic principles of science of mind as taught by Dr. Moira Fox. These programs are presented in order that we encompass the mastery of well-directed faith based on the inner conviction that we are surrounded by an intelligent law, which does unto each of us as we believe.
And so here we are with the great business of looking at doing nothing. Isn't that wonderful? Doing nothing. And the story goes, Reverend Michael has a heart attack. He's drifting above his body, and he finds himself at the pearly gates of heaven, and he's greeted by St. Peter, and he's very surprised at the greeting, because St. Peter says to the good Reverend, he says, "Oh, sorry, you can't come in today." And the Reverend is very surprised. He says, "What do you mean I can't come in today?" He said, "Do you realize that it's me you're talking to? Have you got the right list? I mean, are you looking at the right person?" He says, "Oh yeah, I have the right list. I'm looking at the right person, but you can't come in today." And he's saying, "But why?" He said, "Don't you know? I've been a very, very busy and industrious minister. I have served so many spiritual communities. I have worked and worked and worked to make sure I was able to meet the people's needs and be about the work of the kingdom and do the Father's work. And you know yourself, it's all written down there. I've always been a person who was known as a doer. And people would say, if you want it done, get Reverend Michael to do it. He'll do it. He'll make sure it gets done." And on he goes, telling St. Peter about all his good deeds and all the work he has done and all his accomplishments and successes and achievements. And St. Peter says, "Yes, I know all of that," he said, "but there's one other thing you have to take care of before you can come in." And he says, "Well, what is that?" He says, "You have to put aside all you're doing and discover who you're being as Michael." So he says you have to go back for another little while and get rid of all your signs around you that says fast, faster, and fastest, and put up slow down, and simply be. So off he goes back to where it jumps into his body, and there he is with the task of simply being rather than doing. And so the lesson for us all is this week to take a look at our doing and being, and if there's a balance there at all. And if there's not, to create a balance so that we won't be greeted with the same greeting when we get to the pearly gates and have to jump back into the body again when we thought we were finished with it all. And so, of course, before we look at the blessing of doing nothing, we have to look at the busyness of our embodiments and see what all the doing is about. And ask ourselves the question, if it's relevant. Why is it I very seldom land to refuel? What is it about my life and about myself in my life that keeps me in an endless stream of activity? What is that? For there are all kinds of reasons why we are busy. And I think some of us think at times that if we're busy, especially about good things, that somehow or another we're succeeding in achieving some semblance of sanctity, and our life is on purpose and all of that. And that may be the case depending upon our motivation while we're doing, depending upon the spaces in between, if there are spaces in between. And so the challenge for us all this week is to ask ourselves the question, well then, why is it throughout all of my activity and busyness, I'm not allowing myself time to tune into myself and make sure that everything is doing well, everything is all right, everything is okay? What is it about that stops me from doing that, from taking time out and tuning in to make sure everything's okay? And that's the question we're asking ourselves this week as we move through the busyness of the embodiment. And doing and doing and doing and doing and doing. So, along with that question, there are other questions. Am I doing all of the time simply to run away from myself? So that I can't catch up with myself, so that I cannot come home to myself, so that I cannot be in my own company. Is that why I'm so busy all of the time? Am I being busy all of the time because I'm avoiding something? There's something I don't want to look at, there's something I'm avoiding. Am I being busy all the time because I'm postponing something? There's something that I keep postponing, that I'm not taking care of, that I'm not, getting to. Am I busy all of the time just cause, without any thoughtfulness around it, simply because it's my habit to be busy all of the time? And to be busy all of the time is not a good thing. And so we have to ask ourselves, what does the blessing of doing nothing look like? Because some of us don't even know what it looks like. What is that? What's she talking about? What does that mean? What does that sign mean? What is that? I can't wait to hear what she's thinking as far as the blessing of doing nothing. What's that about? Because nobody ever asks us to do nothing. Everybody's asking us to do something. Nobody ever says, please do nothing. And yet, it intrigues us, the blessing of doing no thing. The blessing of not doing, so that we can simply be. The Dalai Lama is no busier than you are. The Dalai Lama doesn't do any more than I do, but what he does do is more being. And that's what makes him great and outstanding. He spends a lot of his time being, outside of all of the doing. And that's what you and I are called to do as well, because we can. But we're not used to doing nothing. We don't know what it really is to do nothing in a very wonderful way. There is an awesome, wonderful blissfulness in doing nothing. No thing. So what does it look like? Well, perhaps you're called to do nothing and I'm called to do nothing, most especially when something is agitating me, something is annoying me, something is disturbing me, something is unsettling me, some person, place, or thing. Instead of the common response, which is engagement, the common response, which is to mindlessly most of the time respond in a way that is unintelligent to whatever it is that's annoying me, disturbing me, and so on. Rather than doing that, to put the brakes on, to slow down, to take a purposeful breath, to do nothing but to be in the breath, to take a conscious, connected breath, to breathe, and simply focus on the breath that's living me. And if that's not enough, to go to a very powerful and potent mantra and just recite the mantra, and back away from the source of my annoyance, etc., and simply respond by doing nothing, but rather being in the breath of my life. And to do that is to extract myself from the relative that's before me and remove myself from it and enter into the absolute within me, so that I can be blessed as a result of this situation, rather than further annoyed and disturbed. That's one way of doing it. Another way of understanding and experiencing the blessing of doing nothing is when I have a terrible urge or impulse to act impulsively, not to draw a breath and not do anything. When I am faced with a big decision to make, not to be in haste in making the decision, to do nothing for the moment, and to go back into the breathing, living the breath, and the breath living me. So that I'm not focused on any of it. My attention is not anywhere on this out there. It's just simply on the breath that's living me. And again, if that's not sufficient, go to the mantra, whatever that is for you. Be still and know. Be still and know. Be still and be. Be still and be. Just be. Just be. And the beautiful thing of all for me is to embrace the blessing of doing nothing for the reason of stepping outside of the schedule, stepping outside of time, and simply being here now in this moment. Drawing the breath of life in and releasing it out, and just having that moment of connection with everything, the bigness and the largeness of life around and about me and within me, just cause. I've chosen now to be just quiet, still, with nothing going on as far as the busyness of the embodiment is concerned. I am just taking a moment to have a connected perspective with all of life, knowing somehow or another I am in the flow of it, connected to each and every aspect of it. The bliss of that is amazing. That I can take myself off schedule, and I can take myself outside of time, which I can do. It's a choice, and I can do it. And so can you. It's an incredible experience, just so that I can be conscious that I'm a living, breathing aspect of the whole of life. And just because I'm a living, breathing aspect of the whole of life means everything, because without me living and breathing in life, life couldn't be itself and it could not be complete. And to be aware of that is awesome. Is awesome without me having to do a darn thing. In fact, I can serve the world and life far better when I'm doing nothing except being what I'm created to be, a vital aspect of life and living, and aware of it. I'm raising all of life up as I raise myself up in that way. The most awesome service that I can give flows out of a quiet mind and a peaceful heart. The most awesome act of love is the ability to listen fully and well to life. Which is why this week we are all going to commit to taking 3 minutes out every single day to do absolutely nothing, no thing, not even a spiritual practice. To do nothing, no thing, just simply to be in the breath that's breathing each one of us, and just engaged, connected, awake, alert, and aware in my livingness for 3 minutes. The first 3 minutes will seem like 3 hours. But by the end of the week, we'll be wanting 4 minutes. And out of that 3 minutes of being every day, insights will come. Gifts will be received, recognized and received. And we will be changed as a result of it by the end of this week. From 3 minutes every day of simply being my. Isn't that exciting? And this is an auspicious week in which to do all of this. The Feast of All Souls, where the veil between the two worlds is very thin. And the Feast of All Saints, etc. Where the earth is going through a change just now, a cycle. And this time of year marks that change and that cycle. And life, nature is getting ready to truly slow down, because nature's pace is always slow and sure. It's never in a hurry. It's always slow and sure. And you and I are called to participate in all of that cycling
of nature too. So we are ready and ripe for this 3 minutes every day of simply being, the beingness of life and living by means of you, by means of me. And the great blessings that flow as a result of our ability to be still so that we can know what? Know the greatness as opposed to the smallness, so that we can know the moreness of the life that is living us and be in touch with that awesome empowerment that fills us every moment of every day, regardless of our mood, regardless of our feeling, and regardless of what we think is going on. Usually what we think is going on is not what is going on. So we want to make our being that which is our jumping off board, not our thinking, our being, our being, our being. Nothing is that important in your life that you have to do, that you cannot give yourself 3 minutes every day of pure being. And nothing is that important in my life either. It's all about spirituality, and its unfoldment is all about coming home to yourself. That's all it is. That's all spirituality is. Coming home to yourself, being at home in yourself, enjoying your own home. But most of us are absentee landlords. We rarely come home to ourselves for some reason or another. We'd rather go home to somebody else's house, not our own. And that never works. We can never really get comfortable in anybody else's home because it's not our home. We'll never feel that togetherness, that wholeness, that wellness, that fullness, that plenty, that moreness, until we come home to our own home, the house of our soul. And every day extends us that invitation. And let me tell you, with that 3-minute practice of being, that's the sure path to coming home to ourselves once and for all, and finding that the home that we've been avoiding was the most magnificent of all places to be, and not the scary place we thought it was, not the haunted house we thought it was at all. And we haunt ourselves. We're the only ones that can haunt us. Nobody else can. We haunt ourselves. It's an amazing thing. Well, no more of that. No more of that, because we're ready. And as I say, it's the ripeness of time now for all of us to give ourselves that beautiful gift, that treat of beingness, living the breath that's breathing us, being one with the breath that's living us, allowing the breath that's breathing us to take us through all of our challenges with grace and with ease, and understanding that time out like that is simply recognizing a more awesome and powerful presence than my own self, my own little self, and giving me pause enough so that I can take what I think ails me and all of those challenges and surrender it and give it up and hand it over to that which can take care of it. And you know, it is truly in those moments of time out, those purposeful pauses, that I can really grasp the meaning deeply set in the words. When you pray, believe that you receive, and you will receive. When you pray, believe that you will receive, and you will receive. It takes those mindful moments, those being moments, to help us to get on the inside of that promise and to realize it in our lives as a reality. To allow that to work through us takes that. To be still and to be known, as it is written, in quiet confidence shall your strength be. In quiet confidence shall your strength be. So be still, be quiet. As the poet says, you know, what is this life if full of care? We have not time to stand and stare. Stand stand and look around and be in awe and wonder at it all. Animal kingdom. Look at the animal kingdom. Look at how many of those beautiful creatures spend time standing and staring, or sitting and staring, or lying and staring. Meerkats. Cows. Lions lying, staring. And we, of all people, all of creation, all creatures, we could learn a thing or two from the animal kingdom, from nature itself. Nature always needs time to be quiet. What do you think winter's all about? Quietude, silence. And underneath all of that apparent non-activity is the promise of spring, preparing itself in quietude, in silence, ready for the resurgence of life in a new form and in an extended way. And so you and I have those same inclinations within us. We all need so much that time out for the self of ourselves to come home to ourselves and to be in our own company, which is the company of the presence, which is the company of divine providence, which is the company of that which gives itself to us all the time if we're open enough, mindful enough, conscious enough to receive what is given and to allow it to flow through. So I'm excited for us all this week. I am knowing that we will get to love our moments of quietude and silence and stillness and doing nothingness, but simply being the life force that we are. For there's nothing else for us to do except to be what we are, and to be it consciously conscious. Consciously conscious. And it's our unconsciousness that gets us into trouble. It's all our frenzied activity that gets us into trouble. We cannot give, we cannot serve well if we do not take time out to rejuvenate and to recover and to restore. It's impossible. There is this thing called, compassionate fatigue that people suffer from. Compassionate fatigue, when we're serving and serving and serving and serving and serving and never take a moment out to refuel, to refill, to restore. And so we have to watch that. We have to watch that and understand that it's perfectly okay. It's a holy and wholesome thing to do no thing, to do nothing. Are you on for 3 minutes every day this week?
Yes.
Do you really believe that you are equal to giving yourself the gift of 3 minutes of doing nothing every single day for a whole week?
Yes.
Are you willing to ask yourself the questions around all your busyness and all your activity and all your doing? Yes. Are you willing to look if there's any pockets of postponement or avoidance going on through all of this activity?
Yes.
Now remember what you've promised and said yes to today. Those are 3 things. And if you think you're going to forget, get the CD and listen and remind yourself. Because you don't get off the hook for this one. 3 minutes, that's all. That's all Spirit is asking of us today. Just 3 minutes of doing no thing. And it'll amaze you how tempted you will be to do. You'll be so tempted because it's a habituation within us all. Now, isn't it an interesting thing to know that in the light of this beautiful, amazing digital age, this age of advanced communications technology, that we have never been less in communication with each other than we are now. In spite of all of the gadgets that you and I have at our fingertips to help us get instantly in touch with each other, communication has never been less and isolation has never been more from each other than it is now. Let me tell all of those who are devoted and worship our gadgets, it's not enough. It's not enough. We have to eyeball each other at times. We need to open our mouths and speak actual words to each other and hear actual words coming back at us at times. And furthermore, we need to be in each other's presence in silence. We need to be in each other's company quietly and in silence and just enjoying the presence of somebody for what the presence of somebody is. Do we understand that? Yes. So alongside of that endeavor, we could endeavor to make our communication much more meaningful this week. Yes?
Yes.
Are we willing?
Yes.
Are we able?
Yes.
Are we ready?
Yes.
When?
Now.
And so it is.
We invite you to experience Dr. Moira in person on Sundays. Our services are at 9 a.m. and 11 a.m., and childcare is available. Please join us. If you enjoy these messages and would like to make a donation to our center, please visit our website at redondocsl.org. Thank you for your support of this ministry.